So we are going to talk about organizational transformation and DevOps. What it means, and it's basically it's not a deep dive, okay, because we have less than an hour. But it's some key features and key aspects to consider when we want to do organizational change. So first, I will talk a little bit about what is DevOps, okay, not too much, few slides, and then we'll talk about the organizational transformation, and then how we can proceed, what we as an organization need to do, enable to start the process. Okay. Okay, so let's start. Who am I? My name is Gabriel Ben-Harsh Hasson. I am the CTO of Matrix DevOps. The little guy here to the left is, I'm sure some of you know him. It's Steve Jobs, and he said a sentence that resonates with me. The sentence is "Stay hungry, stay fully." So I will tell it a little bit about me through that sentence. So the part of stay hungry, it's my professional life. I'm more than 20 years experience in DevOps, so long before it was called even DevOps. During this year, I did a lot of consulting and implementations and training and professional services around DevOps, selling tools and also selling or helping consulting organization to move to DevOps correctly. I'm also training in one of Israel. I forgot the words, never mind. I'm training also Git, I'm a Git trainer. So this is a little bit about my professional life. I'm working for the last 17 years in Matrix DevOps. Matrix DevOps is it's Matrix arm of DevOps. We do everything DevOps in Matrix, and outside Matrix, we have also our own customers. And that's a little bit about my professional life. In my private life, I'm married. I live in the middle of Israel in a small town, mid-Israel town called Modi'in. I'm married, and as my wife loves to say, I have 2 daughters and she has 3 children. I love science fiction. I love fantasy books and cinema, games. Okay, I'm a gamer. I love D&D, etc. So I'm a total nerd. That's it. Let's start with the presentation. Okay, so we'll start a little bit with what is DevOps. Okay, so DevOps, the idea of DevOps is first of all, it's not tool, it's not automation, it's not technologies. Okay, it's a lot of things, and I want to start with what is not DevOps, because these are some misconceptions that what DevOps is. So sometimes you can hear people say DevOps is automation. Okay, so saying DevOps is automation is like saying that a telescope is astronomy, or astronomy is a telescope. A telescope is a tool within astronomy. Automation is a tool within DevOps. Okay, DevOps is much more than automation. Automation it's a very important part of DevOps, but it is not DevOps per se. Okay. And the same for tools and technologies. When I'm going to customers and they say, yes, I want to do DevOps. I said, okay, what do you mean? I want to use Kubernetes and Jenkins and CI/CD, and I want to use that. And okay, so these are tools and technologies within DevOps, but this is not DevOps, okay? The same for the new IT. So sometimes I'm trying, or sometimes I'm recruiting people and I'm asking, what is your experience? So because in the curriculum, they said I'm a DevOps person, but actually they are like the IT guys or infrastructure guys. So the new IT is also not DevOps, okay? Or a team, defining a team as a DevOps doesn't mean that they are DevOps. So here is an example of automation, okay? And this nice example which will make you understand why only automation per se is not necessarily DevOps. Oh, sorry. Just a second. Why is it not playing? Just a second. Okay.
Can you click it?
Yeah, I'm trying to click it, but it doesn't work for some reason.
I think I have it.
Maybe
Okay,
you can show it from the browser.
Okay. So this small illustration is just to make you understand or make you see that DevOps or automation by its own is not necessarily DevOps. You need a lot more than automation to make things work. And the problem before DevOps was introduced was the culture. In a lot of organizations, there's a culture. In these days it's less and less, but it still exists. The culture in a company, we have the development department and we have the operation department, okay, and there's a wall between them because these two departments have different agendas, okay. The development wants a change, wants a new feature, wants innovation, wants the ability to use new tools and new technologies. The operation wants stability. Something is working, don't touch it. Okay, there's an old Hebrew joke saying that an engineer's son asked his father, well, why the sun is rising in the east and setting in the west. The father of the engineer said, it's working, don't touch it. Okay, so these are the operation people. It's working, don't touch it. The wall exists not only between peoples and agendas, but also within tools. For example, if we are creating or working on a backend server which is running on Java, and on the production it's running on Linux, a lot of the developers are coding on Windows, not necessarily on Linux. Okay, so there could be a problem where something will not work because it's the production servers run or the test servers run on Linux, and then we have the famous developers phrase, it's working on my environment. It's not me. Okay, so we want also to have tools and platforms and infrastructure that allows us to work on the same environments and the same platform. For example, if you heard about Docker, etc., so these are tools that allow a developer working on Windows to deploy the same product, the same executable, let's say on Linux or on Mac or anything else. And the third part of the wall is the responsibility, because in all organizations, when the development was done, they were releasing the versions to the operation, and then we are working on the next things. It's your problem now. We don't want that. We want the collaboration, and we want the shared responsibilities between the operation and between the development. And DevOps, the goal of DevOps is to help us solve these problems. Okay, now the main goal of DevOps is time to market. That's the idea. That this is why we want DevOps. Okay, we want to shorten the time to market. We want to be able to be as quick as possible from the moment we get the idea or the need from the market or the request from our customer, the shortest time until we can give a real value to the customer or back to the market. Okay, so we wanted the short time to do that. And there are two main obstacles in the old culture. So the first one is between the business and the development, which means that in past time, it could take 4, 5, 8 weeks, 8 months to gather all the requirements and design everything, and then deliver it to the development to build everything and to develop everything and back and forth. And in today's days, collecting requirements for 8 months is absurd. The markets are going too fast today. Okay, so requirement that was relevant 4 months ago might and probably won't be relevant anymore today. Okay, so we need to break the wall between the business and the development and make them work together, plan ahead, and have a goal or a set of goals for the next year, but plan accordingly in small iteration. So we need and to break that wall between the business and the development, we are using the agile methodology. The other wall is the wall that we talked before, and to break that wall, share responsibility and agenda and tools and everything, we are using the DevOps methodologies to break that wall. So basically what I'm saying that if you want to get the best value, the most value, and to improve your organization, time to market, you need both methodologies. You need Agile and DevOps. They are going very good together. Basically, they are the same part of the same, they are two parts of the same whole, okay? Okay, so what is DevOps? What the idea of the concept of DevOps? Okay, so there is no DevOps manifest like in Agile, but there are some concept and ideas and okay. So concept and ideas to help us and methodology to do a good DevOps. So first of all, it's improvement and innovation. And it's relevant also for using Agile. Okay, so DevOps never ends and improvement never ends. So we want to be able to improve ourselves all the time, to search for new technologies, to search for new ways to improve our process. If a new tool is out, we might need might want to understand or check that tool because it might help us improve the process. We want collaboration between the operation and cross-functional teams. Okay, we want everyone to talk to each other. We don't want the silos between the organizations. So if I need something from someone, I don't need to send mail and get answer a month afterwards. We want faster release cycle, so we can deploy and release our version more easier and more faster than before. That it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to deploy and release every time, but it means that we need the options to do that. Okay, we need to be able to do that. Decentralizing decision making. So give the teams empower them to be autonomous and decentralize the decisions. Let them decide what are the best technologies and the best way to implement the features and or the requests that you want. You are paying them to be able to deliver that. So trust them and let them make decisions. Give them the guidance, okay? Give them the boundaries of what you want and what you need, but let them decide within those boundaries what are the best ways to do that, okay? And obviously, at the end, DevOps, as I said, automation is not DevOps, but automation is a key feature within DevOps, okay? We cannot do a real-time DevOps. We cannot shorten our time to market significantly without doing DevOps and using automation and using tools. Okay, so here is an example for a few tools within DevOps. This is a very small part of the tools. Each of these cubes can have sometimes tens and dozens of equivalent tools in the market. Okay, but these are some of the tools that maybe more common. So in the area of coding and planning, we can use tools like Atlassian tools like Jira. I assume you know Jira, or Azure DevOps work items. So we can use these tools here in coding and planning. We can use Git, obviously, and Bitbucket and GitHub to maintain our code. We can use build tools like Gradle or Maven for Java or .NET Core or .NET for other MS Build for other languages, etc., etc. In test, we can use tools like Selenium, but we can also use tools for statistical analysis like Logwork, or maybe vulnerability scanning that I didn't add here, but vulnerability scanning like Snyk or like control security, etc. Obviously, the tools that help us orchestrate the entire pipeline, the entire DevOps process, is tools like Jenkins or CodeShip or Harness or tools like Circle CI, etc. Tools for deployments, okay, for maintenance, for the deployments platforms. So we have Docker and we have AWS, and tools for operate the deployments can be tools like Ansible and Kubernetes and Chef, etc. And obviously at the end, the monitoring part is tools like Nagios or Splunk or AppDynamics, which is an APM tool. And because DevOps never ends, and we need to have a constant feedback from each part of the process to the previous part. Okay, so and we, in that we can be able to fix and find bugs and problems very easily and very close to the time they were created, and it will help us solve them more easily and less costly. Okay. So this is a little bit about the tools of the DevOps. Questions about DevOps? This was very high level explanation about DevOps. The most important things to take from here is that DevOps is a culture. Okay, it's a culture. It's not tools. It's not automation. It's not a team. It's a culture, and you need to build this culture within an organization to be able to deliver it and make it and make the most of it, out of it. Okay. Questions? Okay. So let's go to the next slide. Let's talk about organizational transformation. So when we are looking on an organization, we first need to understand what we need to do to be able to bring the organization to this culture. So a lot of things needs to happen for us to be able to bring and to help our organization to obtain the DevOps and Agile culture. Okay, so first of all, we need to understand the goals and the culture of the organization. Okay? Because the goals, and I will talk about goals later, but implementing DevOps is not an organization goal. Okay, and at the end of the day, DevOps help us deliver more quickly and more secure and more with more high quality our product. But if it's not a goal, it's not a goal by itself. Okay, it's a tool for organization. So we need to understand the organization culture and the organization goal, and we need to implement and understand these pillars here. And I brought this specific slide because I heard Macedonians and Greek people here, and I thought you love it. So this is why I brought the slide. But no, but kidding aside, these pillars are very important for organization to be able to transform to an DevOps and Agile culture. So first of all, the leadership. If there isn't any support from the leadership, if the leadership is not behind us, is not behind the process, it will be very hard, if not impossible, to do the transformation. Okay, so we need the leadership back, we need the leadership help and assist and help us push in parts that will have a difficulty to push, because we will have difficulties. People find it hard to accept changes, and doing or implementing such an organization change can be very hard to people. So we need the leadership behind us. The structure of the organization might change. So if you are going to Agile, and I'll talk about these, these two pillars at once. If you want to do Agile or work Agile, some of the organizational structure will need to be changed. For example, there shouldn't be any more QA teams or product teams or development teams or database teams, etc. Okay, we need to have functional teams. We need to have teams that can take a feature from the beginning to the end, whether it's including database or Java and maybe UI or UX, and obviously QA. And we need to have a team that can deliver a feature from the beginning to the end. Okay, and this means we need to change the structure of the company, because there shouldn't be any more QA teams or development teams. QA persons should be part of the development teams. And it means also, it can affect also manager, because, for example, if we take a QA manager, will not be it will not be needed anymore to we will not need anymore to manage the QA person and ask them and measure them by how many QA they are finding. Okay, because the QA person will be part of the development team now. But what he can do and what he should do is to transform himself and become maybe a leader in the organization for QA, a technical leader. Let's say even a CTO for the QA teams, okay, finding new technologies, finding new tools and methodologies to improve the testing cycles in the organization, help and guide the QA personnel in the organization. And we had a few years ago a transformation in a big organization where the QA manager could not understand that, was not willing to see that he needed to change himself, and he found himself outside of the organization quite fast because he was helping hinging the progress of the company. Okay, so structure is very important. Engineering and improvement and training and new technologies and improve our engineers and invest in the engineers is a must. Okay, and implementing the core feature of DevOps, implementing the automation, implementing the culture that we spoke before, the shared collaboration and shared responsibilities and everything. Okay, testing is a must. Automation testing is a must-have in order to do that sort of organization check, because the idea of DevOps is to eliminate bottlenecks. Okay, one of the ideas is to eliminate bottlenecks. And if we have bottlenecks in QA because we might not have enough QA persons, it's a problem. So we need to find the ways to automate the test and make the automation testing part of our cycle. So when a developer is finishing to develop his code, the automation test will run automatically. It means that the QA, the tester, will write the test code or the test scripts when the developer is writing his code. So when the developer is finishing developing his code, the scripts and the tests are already ready for running and for testing. And obviously ALM tools like Jira and other tools to help us manage everything and have traceability and openness and between our teams and see the progress of everything and be open with what we do. Okay, so these are the pillars, the important pillars for doing this organizational change. Oh, I forgot. Sorry, I apologize because I forgot to translate this part. The title in Hebrew says the steps for the transformation. Okay, so this slide should be I'll be talking about what are the steps for this transformation. So we are going from the bottom up. Okay, so the first thing we need to do as an organization, we need to understand the goals and objectives of the organization. Okay, what are the goals? And I will talk about goals a little bit later. But goals could be improving security, improving quality, okay, faster time to market or faster delivery times, etc., etc. So the organization needs to understand what are the goals and where the organization needs to be. Once we know where we want to go, where we want to be, we need to understand where are we today. Okay, so what are we doing correctly and what are we missing? What is being done correctly and what we need to improve. Then we have to choose our strategy. How are we going to do that? Maybe we are going to start with some of the teams and then do it with other teams. Okay, so maybe we need to start with partial some of the teams. The idea sometimes when you implement a big change, you want to have small and quick wins. So we can start, maybe the strategy will be to start with areas that are quick to implement and from one side quick to implement, from the other side bring a big value. So we need to choose our strategy, then we need to start the implementation, and the implementation, as you can see above, the last step is continuous. Okay, we are not stopping, it's not a one-step implementation, it's a continuing improvement and continuous implementation. Okay? These are the steps to help us transform our organization where we want to where we want to be. So these are some of the goals and objectives I talked before. Implementing DevOps is not a goal. Okay. Once we had a meeting with the customer and we asked him, okay, what do you want to do? He said, my goal is to implement DevOps. So we said, no, your goal is not to implement DevOps. Your goal is maybe time to market, or improve your quality, or improve customer service. Okay, maybe our customers are not very happy with our services. Or maybe reducing the time for a change, reducing the time that a specific request is implemented, okay, or maybe improve our efficiency and effectiveness. These are organizational goals, not implementing DevOps. Okay? DevOps is the tool and the culture that will help us deliver these goals. So DevOps will help us perform and improve our lead time. Lead time is the idea, is section of the part from when the idea was introduced and until the time we deliver it. DevOps can help us reduce the change failure. So if we are developing, and maybe we have a quite good DevOps process, but our fail rate when we deploy is very high, and we need to reduce it. Okay, so we need to understand. We need to improve our time to restore. Maybe when we have problem on production and we want after implementation or after deployment, we want to go back. Maybe it takes us too much time because we can easily go back with our product, but we cannot easily go back with the database, for example. Okay, so advantages of using DevOps is to help us, and this is only an example. Okay, there are a lot of other measurements and capability that we can improve, but using DevOps will help us improve these goals and help us improve our process. So regarding deployments, so there are a few measurements we want or objective we want to do. So for example, there are deployment frequency, and there is lead time to change, and there is time to restore and change failure. And these are only few examples for the objective, but there are different companies and that are based on the product can have different measurement and different values. Okay, and it's okay. So for example, elite companies like, let's say, and I'll go big here, okay, but elite companies like Amazon or like Facebook or like Netflix can deploy on-demand multiple deploys a day. The multiple here can be not once a day, not twice a day, not 10 times a day. It could be hundreds of times a day. It could be thousands of times a day. Okay, so these are elite companies. A lead time for a change can be less than for a day. From the moment that the developer can get the request until the request is deployed on our servers, on our SaaS, it can be less than a day. And there's also small companies that does it. For example, I assume some of you heard about Wix. Wix is an Israeli company. It's not Amazon, it's not AWS. It's a small mid company. They also have a lead time of less than a day and hundreds of deployments a day. Okay, time to restore less than an hour. In the good case, few minutes. Going back should be not more than a few minutes if we are building everything correctly. Okay, a high company can be between once a day and once a day or a few times a week. Okay, I don't want to go for each one. I think if they will want, we can send them a PDF of the presentation after I'll fix the presentation with the Hebrew title. Because we don't need to go over each one of these, just to give you the idea of what we can do, or what are the differences between the companies. Okay, old companies will be here on the low section, here, deploying once in a few months, okay? Some companies it's still okay for them to deploy once in a few months, okay? So it depends on the company itself. One of the important things of DevOps is to have a knowledge center, okay? So a training center, or at least working with a training company, because technologies and methodologies are always changing and always improving, and we want to be on the edge, because if we are training our engineers we'll benefit from it very quickly. Center of excellence, okay, pushing developers or toward learning and toward teaching others, and sharing information, because if they share information, if they are not holding the information in their belly, they can share it with others. It makes them, it forces them to learn new things and to improve themselves. Okay, knowledge guilds. So if we talked earlier about functional teams, okay, or cross-functional teams. So we have a team that have a Java developer and a database developer, a QA person. Maybe if they have a question or a problem, they don't have who to ask within the team. But if we will have a guild for all the Java developers in the company, or for all the QA, they can consult and help one another, even though they are not part of the teams. Okay, and innovation center. Okay, a team, sometimes some companies, mostly big companies, have innovation teams that the whole purpose of these teams, and usually maybe under the CTO of the company, is to look for new technologies, test the new technology, do the POC, find the ways to implement them in the organization. This will help us improve all the time. Where we can fail. So some points, obviously these are not all the points, but some points that if they happen, we need to stop and think for a second and understand if they are relevant or not. So for example, understanding that the transformation is not a one-off project. Okay, it's not that I'm doing this transformation project and it's done by that. It's always improvement. We are always looking for new technologies and always looking for new ways to improve ourselves. Okay. Sometimes when the change is dictated from above, and the teams in the organization are not involved. If they are not involved, they can hold back, and they can hold back and make the change very hard. So we need to involve the team to help them understand the benefits, to involve them in early stages of the change, and to help them embrace the change. Okay, and sometimes if teams or managers have different or disagreements about goals and objectives, it can help us and can hinder the change. Okay, so these are the things we need to do in order to help our organization make the transformation. Now, to do it, actually, we first need to do to understand where are we standing now and what we need to improve. And these are done. What we want to do, we want to understand the current state where we are today. Okay, what are we doing? Okay, what do we need to improve? And we need to have the goal where we want to be in front of our eyes. We need to have it maybe on the wall. I don't know, maybe on a large screen. This is where we are now. This is where we want to be. This is what we will earn and what we will have if we will be there. Okay, these are the benefits that we can have if we will implement these processes and be there. And the way to do that is a method and measurement. Oh, another slide that I missed. Sorry. The way to do that is first of all assessment. We need to assess where we are. We need to understand where we are. The way to do that is usually with questionnaires and interviews. And when we, as a company, as a DevOps consultant company, try to help other companies, the first thing we do is the assessment process. We come to the organization with questionnaires and interview all the layers of the organization, from the top layer to the bottom layer. We are interviewing the developers, the QA persons, the infrastructure persons, the team leaders, the managers, the mid-level managers, the top-level managers, because we want to understand not only where are the technical problems, but where are also the cultural problems. So we will, with these questionnaires, we will gather the information from the organization. And we will do part of it also measurement, okay? Where is the company versus the best practices, okay? Are we using any DevOps measurement? Are we using measurement at all? Because measurement can help us, okay, let's say that there's a nice phrase just saying that bad data is better than no data, because if I have bad data, I can learn from it, I can analyze it, learn from it, and improve myself. Okay, so bad data is better than no data. So we need to measure ourselves all the time. We need to find the problems. We need to find the challenges. Okay, and then we need to find and define the goals, the current gaps between where we stand now and the goals that we want to reach, where we want to be. Okay, so the next step is to process the information. Okay, we as for example, now what we do is usually after we do the questionnaires and the interviews, we sit in-house and we analyze everything. We process the information that we got here. We are trying to find where are the bottlenecks, where are the cultural problems, where are the problems of discontinuity, and then to find the repetitive process. A lot of companies, and not long ago, I worked with a company that a developer team leader was doing the actual deployment to the production server, and he had a very long checklist that he needed to do every time he wanted to deploy, and it took him a lot of time to deploy. We helped him find and identify the repetitive process that can be automated, and now more than 80% of this checklist is automated. So now we just have the 15–20% manual work to do before we can deploy, and it saved him a lot of time. Okay, and also we need to try to find feasibility for automation process, because automation is not relevant only for the CI/CD or the continuous integration and the deployment and the technical side. It's also, for example, trying to find automation to help in I forgot the word in English. Never mind. So things that are not only relevant for developers. Okay, there are a lot of areas and aspects in an organization that we can find that are repetitive and can be automated. And after we are doing that, after the processing of the information, we build a maturity report for the customer, and the maturity report will show them where are the strengths and where are the organizational weaknesses. So, for example, in this chart, we can see that the wait time is very high. It's not good, because it means that, for example, QA team is waiting a lot of time between the development deployment delivery. So we need to find a way to reduce that wait time. The time to market is very, very slow. That is very high. So that's a good thing. We can deploy quite quickly. The CD frequency is very low. Okay, rollback time doesn't take a lot of time. So these are good areas, but the fail rate, the rate of our deployment failing or our build failing is very high. So we need to improve that. The quality of our organization might be good or bad. Okay, so after processing the information, we sit with the customer and show them the maturity of the company in all the areas. Okay, so in technical area and in the cultural area. And at the end of that, and this is the last slide, we help them to implement the changes. So we sit with them and build the implementation plan. So some of the points that are important for implementing such a plan, we need to set our priorities according to the organization goals and the maturity of the process. So, for example, if the rate of failing deployment is a goal that is important to organization, and it is quite easy to implement, it might be, and as I said before, it's a quick win. It might be a very high on the priority list. Okay, so we're trying to find the things that are, first of all, very important to the organization, and second, things that are quite or might be quite easy to implement. And these points or these objective will be high on the priority. We need to build a high level plan for the entire project. Okay, we cannot plan 3 years ahead. We need to have our goal where we want to be 3 years from now, and what are the aspects and area that we want to tackle during these 3 years. So we will have a very high level plan for the next 2 or 3 years. We will have a detailed plan for the next few iterations. So for the next few months, maybe, or 2 months ahead, it is possible to plan 1 month, 2 months ahead. Okay, sorry. So a high level plan for the entire transformation 2-3 years ago, and a detailed plan for the next iterations, for the execution of the next upcoming iteration. And obviously, we need to measure ourselves all the time. We need to create the success criteria. So let's measure ourselves all the time. Where are we now versus where were we 2 weeks before, 2 weeks back, or where are we now versus where we were last month? Okay, etc., etc. And we need to see these measurements improve also, because if they are not improving, we have something in the process, something in the implementation we are doing wrong. Okay, so these are key features to help us implement the organizational change. That's it. Thank you very much for listening. We still have about 12 minutes, so I'm open for questions.
This is a time when you can open the mics and just to go ahead and ask.
Yeah, feel free.
I have a question. Hi, Özkan speaking.
Yeah.
While we were discussing, you told that some gray points between the developers and the QAs. For example, some QA tasks should be taken as a developer task and so on. Right. Mm-hmm. And I see that it's a kind of wide understanding of the full stack development. It's just not just about the front end and back end and so on. Then we extend it as inside of a QA subject as well, right?
Yeah.
In this case, what about some professional tasks? I mean, some QA focused tasks, like, how can I say, the deep QA automation. And actually, developers don't like and don't want to learn, for example, like kind of Tosca automations or something like that, like, I don't know, maybe some kind of user interface automations like Selenium and so on. So doesn't it look like some heavy load for a developer and a QA to mix between each other the task? Okay, I can understand, for example, for the developer that it has to be some unit test, integration tests, and some manual UA test before the sending to peer review or sending to the merging to the main branch. But some deep QA tasks are maybe, I don't know, it can be too much for developers, and also it is kind of a bottleneck for the management team, because you may not find the appropriate person in the market, which includes all those qualifications. What do you think then?
So first of all, it's a ratio of people. So you need to find it's hard to find the people, but you need to find, if you have a big development team, you need to have a few QA developers. And the QA developer doesn't necessarily need to be an all-around player. He can maybe know Selenium and other tools, and another QA person will be able to do automation, maybe even write automation in Java. Okay, so or the test, not automation, the automation test. Developers not necessarily need to know Selenium. Okay, they need to know to do the work. The minimum I require or I want to require from a developer is running the unit tests. Okay, so this is the minimum. Write your code and write and run your unit tests. And I as a DevOps person or in the process will run your unit test as part of the branch, let's say the feature branch. And if you are failing in unit test, I will not allow you to share your code with the team. Okay, so. And it depends on the company, because some of the companies, even when the developers, it depends how we build the company. But in some cases, the developer and the QA person are working together on the feature. So when the developer is writing the code, the tester is writing the code for the automation. And when the developer is done, even before merging it back to the team,
they can simultaneously work. For example, QA can start writing the test cases and automatization for that. Then meanwhile, the developer can write the actual code and the unit test. Yeah.
Exactly. And in this case, you will not have a bottleneck because the test will be ready around the same time the development is ready. Okay. And in this way, when the development is done, it was also tested. Okay. The idea, it's important to understand in Agile, when you have, for example, in Scrum, when you have a 2 weeks iteration, it doesn't mean that the sprint, the 2 week sprint, you deliver to the QA your code after 2 weeks. No. The idea is that what you planned for these 2 weeks is not only coded, it's also tested. It is deliverable. I can deliver it. Okay. So in order to do that, I need to.
Yeah, it has to meet the definition of done. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. So it should be deliverable. Maybe not deployed, but ready for deploy, or ready for delivering it for the next steps. Okay, because not every sprint or not every story is a deliverable story.
At least it has to have a business value. Yeah.
Yes. So the business value needs to be done and tested after these 2 weeks. And in order to do that, you need automation QA working with the developer during the development process.
That's right.
Okay. Okay. Other questions?
This is the time, people. You can ask anything now, or, well, you can also ask later, but we prefer now.
No, later, yes.
Yeah. All right, then I think we can finish the session. I'll just remind you that this session is recorded, and we will give you the link to the recording. And thank you everyone so much for joining us. And big thanks to the great Gabriel, the CTO of Matrix DevOps. Thank you, Gabriel. And thank you, Tama, for organizing everything. And I hope to see you all on the next webinar.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.